I'm Karen Bosick with Ironson Valley. You know, I just got off Bald Mountain where spring skiing is in full force at Sun Valley. And just a little bit south of Sun Valley, I'm here with my good friend Lisa Horton, and she's showing me the first wildflowers of the season. There's still little bits of snow around Sheep Bridge, but here we are in the lava fields, among the sagebrush, and we've got wildflowers to see.
The first flower I wanted to talk about today is I think very appropriate because it's this Anderson's buttercup right here, this little guy, and it's the very first flower to bloom in the spring out here in the sagebrush where we are today. This is a south-facing slope, and so the snow melts here a lot sooner than it does in a lot of places on the flat. And these buttercups will bloom right at the edge of the melting snow. So a foot to 2 feet away there can be a snowbank, and yet here is this buttercup bravely blooming and not caring if it freezes at night. So what happens is the flower comes up all by itself, no leaves, just the flowers. And they'll be very close to the surface of the soil, not that they're that tall now. And as the flower stem lengthens and extends, then the leaves come busting up out of the ground. So the leaves are very frilly. They can be red like this. They can have a green cast too. And they will persist after the flowers are pollinated and gone. So you'll see out here in the sagebrush little patches of these frilly little leaves, and you'll know that those were the Anderson's buttercups. I believe that I've seen these on the west side of Dollar Mountain, so you can go up there and look for me and let me know. The flower of these buttercups is a very simple looking thing. It's round, it has 5 petals, and at the base of the petals there's a ring of the male parts, the pollen-bearing parts, the stamens, and then in the center is a cone-shaped thing of individual pistils, so the female parts, and that is unique. The family that this belongs to is the ranunculus family, named for the buttercups, so the buttercup family. And there are a lot of weird plants in this family. I'll just name a few for you. Clematis, the vase flower or sugar bowl, is related to this. Columbine, monkshood, larkspur, all those bizarre shapes. But the fact is they're related because their male and female parts are the same. So I think that that's pretty cool. Now, the name of this flower, Ranunculus andersonii. Andersonii tells us it was named for someone named Anderson. It was named after a physician who lived around Carson City, Nevada in the late 1800s. And he was a physician by vocation, but by avocation he was an avid plant collector. And he did a lot of great botanical work at that time, and so this flower was named to honor him. The first part of the name ranunculus, which, as I said, is the type genus for the family Ranunculaceae, means in Latin little frog. Rana, frog. So what does that have to do with the buttercup? Well, all of the buttercups like moist places. There are like 600 species, I think, worldwide, 40 in the Rocky Mountains. I think that's right. And some of them live as aquatic plants, like in ponds. But a lot of them live along stream banks, like one that we have up north of Ketchum. But this one and another one that we're going to talk about next, like places where the snow is melted and the soil is wet, but it's going to dry out. This is going to be really dry and hard very soon. but the buttercup will have already been pollinated and made its fruit and finished its business and kind of gone back to sleep for the winter. So the follow-up plant to the Anderson's buttercup that we just looked at is another buttercup. This is the sagebrush buttercup, this beautiful little yellow beauty. So you'll notice that the form is the same. It has 5 petals, and the stamens are in a ring around the base of the petals, and on the back there's some sepals. But the difference is, of course, other than the color, which is vastly different, the difference is that with the sagebrush buttercup, the flowers don't come up first and the leaves follow. The leaves actually come up first, like these, and then the buds, like this one, and then the flowers open up and bloom. The blooming time for the sagebrush buttercups is about 2 weeks after the Anderson's buttercup. But the nice thing is they overlap a bit, so we're out here on a day when we can see both, and that's really great. Like the Anderson's buttercup, the sagebrush buttercup likes areas where the snow has melted and the soil is still nice and damp, and it will get its pollination and all of its plantly business done before the soil dries out too much. Again, in the same family, the buttercup family, the name of this one is ranunculus, just like the Anderson's buttercup, but it's ranunculus glaberimus, and that's a big Latin word that means the smoothest. And that refers to the shininess of the petals. So I'd like to talk about the shininess of the petals and where that comes from. Scientists have determined that it comes from at least 2 different things. The skin, the upper skin of the petal is very thin, and it has the pigment in it, the carotenoid pigments. Those are the ones that make this flower look yellow to us. So I expect you all remember from junior high or whenever it was we talked about colors, that the pigment absorbs all the light colors except for the one that it is not absorbing, that is being reflected back to your eye. And your brain interprets that wavelength of light as yellow. And this one's really yellow. So the pigment-bearing layer, the thin outer skin, it's very thin, but it's also very smooth. Remember, the species name means the smoothest. It's very smooth. But also underneath that layer, there's an air layer and then a second layer of cells that also are very smooth. So you're getting double the amount of light reflected back. And that's why this is so shiny. So why? What difference does it make? Well, it's cool, of course. It reminds me of patent leather shoes I had when I was a little girl. But to the pollinators, what difference does it make? Well, you know, yellow is very attractive to insects in the first place. And this shininess of the petals, it is postulated that it mimics nectar droplets on the petals, and the insects are attracted to that. And they come crawling in to get that nectar, and they, of course, crawl through the stamens and pick up the pollen until they go to the next flower. I'd like to finish up, I guess, by talking about a children's game that we used to play. I don't know if you guys ever used to do this, but you'd get your friend and you'd say, let's see if you like butter. And you'd hold a buttercup underneath their chin, and I don't know whether you can see it out here in the sunlight, but it will reflect yellow onto the bottom of your chin. Can you see the yellow reflected on the bottom of my chin? That means I like butter. The thing is, I tried this yesterday with a daffodil, and it does it too. So I think we can safely say that everyone likes butter.
We'll be back to meet more wildflowers, courtesy of Lisa Hoyton, in just a minute.
Taking care of life's business doesn't always happen at the most convenient times. So we make it easy for you to access and manage your banking wherever, whenever. This is Community Banking, D.L. Evans Bank.
Better food, better price, better service. Atkinson's Market, supporting local farmers since 1956.
Let the event dazzle your guests by creating a sensational experience. Let the event take your party over the top.
As an independent insurance agency, we represent you to the insurance company, not the insurance company to you. This allows Wood River Insurance to be as competitive as possible. So call us today at 208-788-1100 and let Wood River Insurance represent you.
Another really early spring bloomer, and perhaps one of my favorite of all wildflowers, is the Kusickiana primrose. Like the two buttercups that we just looked at, it has 5 petals. But unlike the buttercup, the petals are not free of each other. They come together and fuse to make a tube. You can see the tube here. These can range from pale lavender like this one to really dark purple like this, and some places they can be a pinker purple. Quite a beautiful range of colors. And a really distinctive thing about it is this yellow center. The inside of the tube is actually yellow, which gives it that, I think in floral terms they call that the eye. And you can imagine that insects could be really drawn to that yellow tube, and they crawl down in there, and that's where the stamens and the female parts of the flower are located, inside the tube. So the name of this is Primula kusickiana. Kusickiana refers to the man who was honored by naming this plant after him. He was a rancher and a plant collector and a teacher who collected plants all over the Northwest. It seems very poetic to me for a rancher to be a plant collector. I love that idea. And that was in the early 1900s, and this was named after him. And then the first part of the official, the Latin name, is primula. Primula also reflects the name of the family, which is the primrose family, the primula family, not the evening primroses, which the fireweed and the suncup and those kinds of things are in. This is a different family, the primrose family. Primula comes from the Latin word primus, which means first. So first bloom of spring. And the common name at that time was primavera, which I'm sure you've heard before, right? It's like a pasta primavera, but it means first of spring, and pasta primavera is made of spring vegetables. So as the name primavera worked its way from Latin through French and into Old English and everything, it got quite corrupted, and it became primrose. So prim still refers to primus, first, and rose was a common name that just meant flower. So we have, again, first flower of spring. I really love these, and I love to see them because they are not common. In fact, Primula kusickiana, the Kusickiana primrose, is only found in central Idaho and in northeastern Oregon in the Wallowa Mountains. That's it. So count yourself really lucky if you see these. And please, they're so pretty, but don't dig them up and take them home to your garden, because they will not thrive there. They like very specific conditions. You can see that we are in a wash area, what we call a swale, which is a slightly sloped, curve-sided little drainage area. And they come up after the snow has left here, and they like this. The soil here is still really quite moist, and once it dries out, they'll go back underground and wait for next year. So the last plant we're going to talk about today, it's appropriate because it's the tiniest of the 4 plants. And it's one that you may not really see, and I want you to appreciate it. It's this little guy. Look how sweet it is. These little furled, very intricate blue-green leaves, and this flower head that is kind of shaped like an umbrella on a little reddish stalk. This is a member of the parsley family called spring parsley. Now, it's probably, I'm thinking, in the genus Lomatium, and there are lots and lots of parsley member relatives and lots of things in this genus. So I'm not going to try to go to a specific one, but I just want to tell you some interesting things about this plant. You can see that this is really hard-packed dirt. We are looking at an area where people drive, and so this is disturbed ground, and this little guy is doing just fine with its limited ambitions. Its flower head is typical of the parsley family. It is umbrella-shaped, but imagine an umbrella where the stalk of the umbrella goes up, and then the ribs go off, but at the end of each rib, there's a whole nother set of ribs. Can you even imagine an umbrella with that many little sets of sprouting? Well, that's what this is shaped like. And it's known as an umbel, which is why I say umbrella, because it makes me think of it. So that's a characteristic of the parsley family. And you probably have seen, I think maybe we've talked in another video about cow parsnip, which is a rather large, 5 feet tall member of the parsley family that grows along our streams, has great big coarse leaves and rather large white flower heads, but otherwise looks just like this. And then maybe you've had dill go to seed in your garden, or carrots, or maybe you got a florist bouquet and there was some Queen Anne's lace in there. All of those are parsley family relatives with this same type of flower head. So this is a modest little plant, and the reason I point it out to you is that I think we need to look at what's going on the ground beneath our boots. This little guy is doing its little parsley thing. It's here, it is growing, it's trying to attract pollinators, it's going to set some seeds, it's going to make, a fruit. And there's no reason that we should accord it less respect than the big, beautiful flowers like the buttercups and the primrose that we saw earlier.
I sure understand why the early spring flowers are low and short and small. When those cold early March winds blow, it's good to be low to the ground. I want to thank Lisa for introducing us to some flowers we may never have noticed before. And trust me, she'll be back with more wildflowers all summer long. I'm Karen Bosick with Eye on Sun Valley. Until next time, I'm keeping my eye on Sun Valley for you.